December 1943, Loch Sheldrake, New York, a small town where nothing ever happens, where dreams die slowly under the weight of routine, and where young men grow old before their time. Francis Sherman Currey is 17 years old, an orphan since age 12. No family, no prospects, no future waiting for him in this forgotten corner of America. While other boys his age dream of college or taking over their father's businesses, Currey stares at empty streets and feels the walls of his small town closing in. The war in Europe seems distant, almost unreal. Newspaper headlines speak of battles in places he can't even pronounce. But to Currey, the war represents something else entirely, an escape route. Not from danger, but toward it. Because when you have nothing to lose, even hell looks like an opportunity. The day after his high school graduation, while his classmates celebrate uncertain futures, Currey walks into the recruitment office. The sergeant behind the desk barely looks up. Another desperate kid, another warm body for the meat grinder. He doesn't ask Currey about his motivations. He doesn't need to. He's seen that look before, the look of someone running from something or towards something. It doesn't matter which. Currey signs the papers without hesitation. No dramatic goodbye, no tearful farewell. There's no one left to say goodbye to. Basic training is brutal but unremarkable. Currey discovers he possesses a peculiar talent. He learns quickly and executes orders without question. While other recruits struggle with the discipline and the fear, Currey adapts with unsettling ease. His instructors notice something unusual about this quiet orphan from nowhere. He doesn't just follow orders, he understands them. He doesn't just fire his weapon, he becomes intimate with it. But beneath the surface, Currey carries something his superiors cannot see. An absolute absence of attachment to his own survival. When you've already lost everything, fear loses its power over you. 3 months later, December 1944, the European theater. Currey stands on the deck of a transport ship crossing the Atlantic, surrounded by thousands of young men who still believe they're invincible. The ocean stretches endlessly in all directions, dark and indifferent. He's been assigned to the 30th Infantry Division, a unit with a reputation for being thrust into the worst fighting. The other soldiers around him trade nervous jokes, write letters home, make promises about what they'll do after the war. Currey remains silent, watching the horizon where Europe waits. He thinks about the sergeant's words during their final briefing. Most of you won't make it through your first combat engagement. The ones who do will wish they hadn't. Currey doesn't feel afraid. He doesn't feel brave either. He feels nothing but a strange sense of purpose, as if his entire meaningless life has been preparation for something he cannot yet see. The ship cuts through icy waters. Somewhere ahead, in the frozen forests of Europe, the German Wehrmacht is preparing the largest counter-offensive of the war. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, thousands of tanks, a desperate gamble by a dying Reich, and Francis Sherman Currey, the orphan boy from nowhere with nothing to lose, is sailing straight toward it. What he doesn't know yet is that in those frozen forests, he will discover what he was truly running toward all along. Not escape, but destiny. January 1945. Belgian countryside. The landscape is a nightmare of frozen mud, shattered trees and abandoned equipment. This is what remains after armies collide. Francis Currey steps off the transport truck into a world that exists beyond the imagination of those who have never seen war. The smell hits him first, a nauseating mixture of cordite, burning oil, and something else he will learn to recognize as death itself. The sound comes next, distant artillery thunder, the occasional crack of sniper fire, the low rumble of tanks somewhere beyond the tree line. The 30th Infantry Division has a reputation. They call them Roosevelt's SS, a bitter compliment from German soldiers who learn to fear them. But reputation means nothing when you're a replacement, a fresh body filling a gap left by someone who won't be coming home. Currey's squad leader is a sergeant named Matthews, 23 years old but looking 40. His eyes have the 1,000-yard stare that comes from seeing too much. He sizes up Currey with the practiced assessment of someone who knows most replacements don't survive their first week. "You know how to use that rifle, kid?" Currey nods. Matthews grunts, unimpressed. Everyone knows how to use a rifle until bullets start flying. The first night, Currey learns that war is mostly waiting. waiting in frozen foxholes, waiting for orders, waiting for death to randomly select its next victim. The veterans barely speak to him. They've learned not to learn the names of replacements. The second day brings Currey's baptism by fire. A German patrol probes their position at dawn. The world explodes into chaos. Machine gun fire, screaming, the wet sound of bullets finding flesh. A soldier 3 feet from Currey takes a round through the throat and drowns in his own blood before anyone can help. But something strange happens. While other replacements freeze or panic, Currey moves, not recklessly, but with cold precision. He identifies targets, controls his breathing, squeezes the trigger with the mechanical efficiency learned in training. His hands don't shake. His mind doesn't cloud with fear. When the firefight ends, it lasts maybe 4 minutes but feels like hours. Matthews stares at Currey with new eyes. The kid didn't just survive, he performed. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" "Nowhere special, Sergeant." But that's not entirely true. Currey learned something growing up alone that most soldiers never understand. Detachment. When you've spent years with nothing and no one, you develop a relationship with emptiness that makes you dangerous. You don't fight to protect what you have. You fight because fighting is simply what's in front of you. The days blur together. Small engagements, artillery barrages, the constant movement of armies testing each other's weaknesses. Currey watches the veterans and absorbs lessons they don't consciously teach. He learns to read terrain, to anticipate enemy movement, to understand the rhythm of combat. By the end of his first week, the squad stops treating him like a replacement. Matthews assigns him better positions, trusts him with more responsibility. The other soldiers still don't talk much. They've learned that lesson too well, but they stop looking through him. What none of them know, what Currey himself doesn't fully understand yet, is that he's being shaped by forces larger than any individual battle. History is preparing him for something that will echo through decades. But first, the Germans have one more card to play. December 16th, 1944, 3 weeks before Currey's arrival, the Ardennes forest. At 5:30 a.m., the German artillery opens fire along an 85-mile front, 2,000 guns unleashing hell simultaneously. American soldiers, many of them green replacements enjoying what they thought was a quiet sector, wake to apocalypse. This is Hitler's last desperate gamble, Operation Watch on the Rhine. 3 German armies, over 200,000 men, supported by hundreds of panzers and the elite Waffen-SS divisions. The objective, split the Allied lines, capture Antwerp, force a negotiated peace before the Reich collapses completely. The initial assault is devastating. Entire American units are overrun, surrounded, or simply cease to exist. Confusion reigns. Communication lines are cut. In the fog and snow, nobody knows where the enemy is or how deep the penetration goes. And then comes Malmedy, December 17th, 1944. A crossroads near the Belgian town of Malmedy, Kampfgruppe Peiper, an SS battle group commanded by Joachim Peiper, known for his ruthlessness, encounters a convoy of American soldiers, Battery B of the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion. Lightly armed men who never expected to see combat. They surrender. Over 100 American prisoners of war, hands raised, standing in a frozen field. What happens next becomes one of the war's most infamous atrocities. The SS soldiers open fire, machine guns cutting down unarmed men. Those who run are hunted. Those who play dead are shot in the head at close range. 84 Americans murdered in cold blood. The news spreads through American units like wildfire. The message is clear. The SS takes no prisoners. Surrender means death. This changes everything. By the time Currey arrives in January, the Malmedy massacre has transformed the nature of the fighting. American soldiers who might have surrendered now fight to the death. The SS, accustomed to intimidation working in their favor, suddenly face an enemy with nothing left to lose. The 30th Infantry Division, Currey's unit, is positioned directly in the path of the German advance. They've been fighting non-stop since the offensive began, losing men daily, receiving inadequate supplies, facing an enemy with superior armor and the momentum of desperation. The battle has already created a bulge in the Allied lines, hence the name that will stick to this operation forever. The Germans have pushed 40 miles deep, creating a salient that threatens to collapse the entire Western Front. But they're running out of time. Every day the Allies hold delays the German timetable. Every destroyed bridge, every defended crossroads, every hour of resistance brings the inevitable counterattack closer. The 30th Division has become experts at this brutal calculus. They know they're outgunned. They know reinforcements are scarce. They know that statistically, most of them won't survive another month. What they don't know is that among their newest replacements walks a young man who will single-handedly redefine what one soldier can accomplish. Currey listens to the stories about Malmedy. He sees the fear mixed with rage in the veterans' eyes. He understands that this is no longer just war. It's something more personal, more visceral. The Germans are coming. Everyone knows it. The only question is where they'll hit next and whether anyone will be left standing when they do. Currey cleans his rifle and waits. History is about to call his name. January 13th, 1945, Malmedy, Belgium, a town that has already seen too much blood. The 30th Infantry Division holds a tenuous defensive line around the outskirts. Malmedy isn't just another Belgian town, it's a critical junction. Roads converge here. Supply lines depend on it. Whoever controls Malmedy controls the flow of the entire sector. The Germans know this. So do the Americans. Currey's squad is assigned to defend a bridge on the southern approach, not a grand structure, just a narrow stone bridge over a half-frozen stream. But in war, strategic value has nothing to do with size. This bridge is one of the few intact crossings in the area. Lose it, and German armor gets a clear path into the town's heart. Sergeant Matthews briefs them with characteristic bluntness. We hold this bridge, or we die trying. Those are the only two options. Nobody argues. After Malmedy, everyone understands the rules. They dig in as best they can. The ground is frozen solid, making foxholes nearly impossible. They pile rubble and frozen sandbags, create makeshift firing positions. Currey takes a spot with clear sightlines down the approach road. He has his Browning automatic rifle, a weapon he's become intimate with, plus a few grenades and whatever ammunition they could scavenge. It's not enough. It's never enough. The night is unnaturally quiet. That's how they know something is coming. In war, silence is more terrifying than noise. Dawn breaks grey and cold, and then the sound begins. First, the distant rumble. Tank engines. Multiple engines. The veterans recognize it immediately. German armor moving into position. Then comes the artillery barrage. Not the massive bombardment of the initial offensive, but precise, methodical fire. They're softening up the defenses, preparing the ground. Shells impact around the bridge. Stone and frozen earth erupt skyward. A private named Henderson takes shrapnel to the chest and dies instantly. Another soldier loses his arm. The screaming begins. Currey stays low, controlling his breathing. His mind processes information with cold clarity. Trajectory of incoming fire, likely position of German artillery, probable axis of tank advance. While others panic, he calculates. The barrage lifts. That's the signal. Through the smoke and morning mist, shapes emerge. Panzers, at least 4 that Currey can see, probably more behind. Infantry moving with them, using the tanks as mobile cover. Professional soldiers, likely SS, advancing with practiced coordination. Matthews is yelling orders, but his voice seems distant. The world has narrowed to Currey's rifle sight and the approaching enemy. The first panzer reaches the bridge approach. Its turret swivels, searching for targets. Currey knows his Browning automatic rifle won't penetrate tank armor, but tanks aren't invulnerable. They have weaknesses, vision slits, track assemblies, the infantry that depends on them. Nobody gives Currey an order. Nobody tells him what to do. He simply acts. Rising from his position, Currey opens fire on the infantry supporting the lead tank. His rounds are precise, methodical. German soldiers drop or scatter. The tank, suddenly exposed without infantry cover, hesitates. That hesitation, that single moment of uncertainty, is everything. "Kid, what the hell are you doing?" Matthews screams, but Currey is already moving, grabbing a bazooka from a dead soldier's position, loading a rocket with hands that don't shake, despite the machine gun fire tearing up the ground around him. The Germans have momentum, numbers, and armor. But they've just encountered something they didn't expect. A young man with nothing to lose and everything to prove. The bazooka rocket screams across the frozen morning air. It strikes the lead panzer's track assembly. Metal shrieks against metal. The tank lurches violently, immobilized, blocking the narrow bridge approach. Smoke pours from the damaged treads. Currey doesn't wait to admire his work. He's already moving, dropping the bazooka, retrieving his Browning. The German infantry, momentarily shocked, begins to regroup. Their training kicks in, suppressing fire, flanking maneuvers, coordinated assault. But something unexpected is happening. Currey moves like a man possessed by pure tactical instinct. He fires from one position, then sprints to another before return fire arrives. He's not just fighting, he's creating an illusion. To the Germans, it seems like they're facing multiple defenders with coordinated fields of fire. A second panzer attempts to push past the disabled tank. Currey has already anticipated this. He's retrieved grenades from fallen soldiers, positioning them along likely approach routes. When the tank's infantry support advances, they walk into a perfectly timed ambush. Explosions tear through their formation. The Germans fall back, confused. They're elite troops, accustomed to overwhelming opposition through superior firepower and discipline. But they can't pin down their enemy. Every time they identify a firing position, it's already empty. Every time they advance, they encounter resistance from an unexpected angle. Sergeant Matthews watches in disbelief. The kid isn't just fighting. He's orchestrating a one-man defense that should be impossible. Currey grabs a German rifle from a dead soldier. His own ammunition is running low. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't think about the symbolism of using enemy weapons. A gun is a gun. A target is a target. Everything else is sentiment, and sentiment gets you killed. The 3rd Panzer tries to maneuver around the bridge, seeking an alternate crossing through the frozen stream. Currey spots the movement. He's already positioned himself with the bazooka again, reloaded by another soldier who's caught on to what's happening. The rocket hits the panzer's side armor at an angle, not a kill shot, but enough to damage the turret mechanism. The tank grinds to a halt, crew scrambling to assess damage. Now the psychological warfare truly begins. German officers behind the line are receiving confused reports. Their assault on a lightly defended bridge has stalled. Casualties are mounting, but intelligence suggested only a small American squad holding this position. The resistance they're encountering suggests a much larger, better coordinated force. They don't understand what they're facing. A single soldier who moves between roles like a ghost, rifleman, anti-tank specialist, grenade thrower, medic, because between engagements, Currey drags wounded Americans to cover, applies tourniquets, keeps men alive who would otherwise bleed out. To the Germans, it appears they're fighting an entire platoon with coordinated fire support and medical infrastructure. The reality is far stranger. Hours pass. The battle becomes a grinding stalemate. German forces can't advance across the bridge without exposing themselves to devastating fire. But they can't withdraw without admitting failure. More importantly, their commanders can't understand why such a tactically inferior position is proving so difficult to overcome. Currey's uniform is soaked with sweat despite the freezing temperature. His hands are raw. His ammunition is nearly exhausted. He's running on pure adrenaline and something deeper. That emptiness inside him that makes survival feel optional rather than mandatory. A 4th Panzer moves into position, its gun elevating to blast the American positions into rubble. Currey spots a .50 caliber machine gun mounted on a damaged American half-track nearby. It's exposed, vulnerable. Operating it would be suicide. He sprints toward it anyway. Matthews screams for him to stop. The other soldiers watch in horror as Currey crosses open ground under fire, reaches the machine gun, and swings it toward the approaching armor. The ghost of Malmedy is about to become a legend. The .50 caliber machine gun roars to life. Heavy rounds tear through the morning air at 3,000 feet per second. Currey doesn't aim for the panzer's armor. He knows better. He targets the vision slits, the exposed periscope, the commander's hatch. Metal sparks fly as bullets ricochet off steel, but some find their mark. Inside the tank, the crew is blind. They can't see their target, can't coordinate with their infantry. The panzer slows, then stops, paralyzed by uncertainty. German soldiers watch this impossible scene unfold. A single American, completely exposed, operating a heavy machine gun that should require a crew. He should be dead 10 times over. Every German rifle, every machine gun in range should have cut him down instantly. But something stops them. It's not mercy. The Waffen-SS doesn't do mercy. It's something more primal, a hesitation born from encountering something that doesn't fit the pattern. Soldiers are trained to respond to predictable threats. They understand suppressing fire, flanking maneuvers, coordinated assaults. They don't understand whatever Francis Currey has become. A German officer shouts orders. His men respond, opening fire on the exposed American position. Bullets chew up the ground around Currey, puncture the half-track's body, whistle past his head close enough to feel. Currey adjusts his aim with mechanical precision. He sweeps the 50 cal across the German infantry positions. The heavy rounds don't just wound, they devastate. Men dive for cover. The advance stalls completely. Then Currey does something that transforms tactical defense into psychological warfare. He stops firing, goes completely silent, disappears behind the half-track. The Germans wait. Seconds stretch into minutes. Is he dead? Reloading, repositioning. Suddenly, rifle fire erupts from a completely different location. Currey has moved again, retrieved his Browning, taken up a new position. To the Germans, it seems impossible that one man could cross that distance unseen. German commanders behind the line are now receiving reports that border on the absurd. Their assault force, battle-hardened SS troops with armor support, cannot overcome a single bridge defended by what appears to be a phantom American unit that simultaneously occupies multiple positions. The psychology of warfare is simple. Soldiers fight hardest when they believe they can win. When doubt creeps in, even elite troops begin to hesitate, and hesitation is contagious. A young SS soldier, no older than Currey himself, peers around cover trying to spot the American positions. He sees the disabled panzers, the bodies of his comrades, the bridge that was supposed to fall in an hour but has held all morning. He thinks about Malmedy, about the American prisoners they executed, about the rage that act must have instilled in the enemy. And he wonders, what kind of soldier fights like this? What kind of man doesn't break when facing impossible odds? The German officer orders another assault. This time, his men advance slower, more cautiously. Fear has entered the equation. Currey sees them coming. His ammunition is almost gone. His body screams with exhaustion. Blood from a dozen minor wounds stains his uniform. By every logical measure, he should retreat, call for reinforcement, preserve his own life. Instead, he retrieves grenades from dead Germans, positions himself for one more engagement. Behind him, Sergeant Matthews organizes what remains of the squad. American reinforcements are finally approaching, drawn by the sound of sustained combat. But they're still minutes away, and the Germans are attacking now. The final German assault breaks like a wave against stone. Currey's grenades detonate among the advancing infantry. The 50 caliber machine gun, impossibly still operational, roars one last time. German soldiers fall back, their coordination shattered, their confidence destroyed by hours of facing an enemy they cannot comprehend. And then American reinforcements arrive. Fresh troops, additional weapons, the weight of numbers that finally tips the balance decisively. The Germans, already demoralized, begin their withdrawal. The panzers reverse, grinding back down the approach road. Infantry retreats under covering fire. The bridge at Malmedy holds. When the shooting finally stops, Sergeant Matthews finds Currey sitting against the half-track, methodically cleaning his rifle despite hands that won't stop shaking. The adrenaline is finally wearing off, replaced by the crushing weight of what just happened. "How many?" Currey asks quietly. Matthews understands the question. "We counted at least 12 enemy killed by your fire alone, 3 tanks disabled, an entire German assault stalled for 5 hours. He pauses. "I saved this position, kid. Probably saved the whole damn sector." Currey says nothing. He's staring at his hands, at the blood, some his, some not, that covers them. Over the following days, reports filter up the chain of command. Officers read them with disbelief, then send investigators to verify. Eyewitness accounts are collected. German prisoners are interrogated. The evidence is overwhelming and impossible. One American soldier held a critical position against overwhelming force through a combination of tactical brilliance and something that transcends normal human capability. February 1945. Currey is summoned to division headquarters. A colonel he's never met shakes his hand, tells him he's being recommended for the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration, reserved for valor beyond the call of duty. Currey accepts the news with the same quiet detachment he brings to everything. He doesn't feel heroic. He doesn't feel special. He simply did what the moment required because he couldn't conceive of doing anything else. The war continues. Currey fights through the final months, survives battles that kill better soldiers, returns home when Germany finally collapses. The Medal of Honor ceremony happens in a blur. Politicians make speeches. Photographers capture images. Currey stands in his dress uniform and wishes he were anywhere else. He returns to America, to a country that wants to celebrate heroes but doesn't want to hear about what creates them. Currey finds work helping other veterans, quiet work, anonymous work. He refuses interviews, declines speaking engagements, lives a life of deliberate obscurity, but his legend grows anyway. Military historians study the Battle of Malmedy, identifying his defense as a textbook example of how individual initiative can alter tactical outcomes. His story appears in training manuals, gets whispered among soldiers as an example of what's possible when ordinary men face extraordinary circumstances. Decades later, long after the war, German veterans who fought at Malmedy occasionally speak about that January morning. They describe the ghost who defended the bridge, the American soldier who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere, who fought with a calm that was more terrifying than rage. They never learned his name during the battle, but they never forgot him. Francis Sherman Currey, the orphan boy from nowhere with nothing to lose, discovered what he was running toward all along. Not glory, not redemption, not even survival, purpose. And in finding it, he became immortal.